found out from the customer that these holes are actually for water storage, because back in the mid 1800s they didn't have any running water, any plumbing or anything like that, so something like that was probably pretty essential for living on your own out here, because this is not next to any town or anything, so everybody out here has to be self-reliant. So we're going to dig this up and see how bad the old foundation is. From the inside you can see the foundation is actually parged, or it's encapsulated, but I don't know if it's going to be like that on the outside. It looks pretty strong from the inside, not too many cracks, but I guess we'll see once we start digging this up. But I'm going to take it nice and slow because I don't want anything to cave in. But I'm glad to see that it wasn't like loose stone, at least on the inside anyway, so something will keep it together. So I was thinking I'd just pour that foundation wall first and then pour the other three once that's stabilized and ready to go. But I'll probably dig out the whole thing, leave myself like 4 feet all around. And we're going to try to get 8 feet down for the basement.
stick it down like a quarter.
Yesterday while I was digging, this pin broke. This is the main pivot pin on the bucket, and you can't find anything like this locally, so I went ahead and ordered the new pin. But let's just see if I can just weld this back together so I can use this for another day, because the pin won't come in until tomorrow morning. So if I can spend a few minutes and just weld this and get a day's use out of it, then I'm satisfied. So here's the final product. Not great, but for 10 minutes worth of work, if it allows me to dig for the rest of the day, then I'm good with that. So that spot right there is where the grease hole was. I tried to close it up just to get a little more strength, but the grease was coming out and making a weld not great, so we'll see if it'll last.
Huh. There you go.
It's weird. Alright, so here's the new pin I got from John Deere. It's too long, but I think it'll still work. See if I put it in there like that. This keeper pin goes right here, so that's fine. But this side's sticking out like an inch and a half past. But it'll still work. I don't know why it's like that though.
looking at. Look at that. Stir that in.
was trying to save this tree, but with this addition growing in size, we're changing the size of the addition, so it needs to go further into the tree, and I already hit a lot of roots, so it's going to die anyways. So I dug out the back side. I got all the roots disconnected. This is about 4.5 feet wide, so I'm just going to pull it this way. Alright, so here's all of our forms that we need for this job. I have a lot of these forms, and I have about every size you can imagine as far as width. So I can go from 2 foot down to 20 inch, down to 16 inch, down to I think 2 inches is the lowest one I have, and everything in between in like 2 to 4 inch increments. So I can pretty much form whatever I want. I have enough forms to form probably about a 3,000 square foot basement in one pour. In the past I used to rent these forms, and then it got to the point where it was like not efficient to be paying $1,000 or $2,000 every time I needed to form a foundation. So in this corner here, we're going to put a 45-degree part that will encapsulate this whole area and strengthen it up, and it will also give strength to both of these walls. It'll connect them together, which will make it so that they can't have any sideways lateral motion. Same thing on this side, but this one's a lot smaller. That's what these 45-degree marks are. So that'll come up all the way, and that way the new basement won't have any of the old stone in it. It'll all be encapsulated, plus it'll tie these walls together at both corners. These forms are all oiled up. They're ready to be placed. These are the 4-foot forms. I got some 3s on the way, and we're gonna put the 4s down first. Then we're going to put 3s on top of that. Okay, so today's pour day. Concrete's on its way. Forms are all ready. Scaffolding is ready. So I'm just gonna quickly go over what I have here. So I'm coming out just a few feet on this corner just to start the 8-foot section of the new foundation. So that's 8 foot there, and then it drops down to 7 foot for underneath of this existing wall. Over here we're only pouring 6 foot because 7 foot would be right underneath of the existing sill plate, which is only a 2x, actually it's a 2x10 I think, but it's not like over here where there's going to be a big 6x6. Over here there's not going to be enough room to do what we need to do, so I'm going to leave it down at 6 foot, and then I'll probably just add a couple of solid blocks to go and meet up to the existing sill plate. So I also have a little return wall coming out just to start off the addition, and I stepped it out a little bit from the footing so like everything's not ending right at one spot. It's kind of staggered. So then like there's some pieces of plywood that I need to fill in over here. I just used a bunch of foam and then a bunch of great stuff, and then so that's all supported, and I just have this diagonal brace just to hold up this wall from going like this. Over here in this corner, even though these are forms and they meet on a 45, there's no snap ties here to hold it to something because we're just pouring it up against the existing stone. So naturally this is just going to push out on this a lot. So what I did here was just tied it in to the top, and on the bottom I have this 2x with some tap cons. I put some tap cons in here so the bottom can't kick out. That's where the most weight's going to be. And then I also have these pieces here just to make sure that this whole thing doesn't bow. The object is, there's really no reason to even bring it up to the 7 foot, but for the purposes of keeping out rodents and bugs and stuff, I do feel that that is important, so I'm going to do that. So I have these little kickboards right here to make sure that we can pour on the outside of the foundation and it kind of dribbles into it. So the door is going to be here, so the stop for the door is going to be right there. So we just have to fill from here all the way over to here. And what I'm going to try to do is do that first and fill it up like 4 feet, vibrate it, and then fill it up the rest of the way. And then this whole platform that I have here, I made to stand on and pour, because I know that there's not going to be enough pitch for it to just naturally flow down this. So somebody's gonna have to be up here with a shovel to kind of guide it down, because otherwise it like all collects at one spot and it starts flowing over the side. So I put this scaffolding here, got a little railing here, make sure you don't fall. Last time I used this I kind of didn't really get the concrete off that well, but we'll make it work. When you're using a plywood snap tie, they leave you enough on each side so that you can put a whaler here and a strong back here, and then you put this wedge in here, and as you're driving this down you can see it's like tapered. So as you're driving that down it tightens up that snap tie. So now both of these sides are very tight with each other. So I had to do that right here, and that's because this was hard to get in a position with a regular form. So I used plywood there, and over here I use plywood as well because this jack is here, and I don't want to take this jack out. It's like the only jack I have here right now. So basically the weight's being distributed between there, this jack, the door, and the corner, which is enough. The biggest span that I have here is between here and there, which is like 8 feet. But in order to have this jack in here, the form wouldn't work because of the clearance here. I needed to be out here like this. So rather than cut out to allow that to happen, I just put some plywood conversion pieces and put some plywood in here. So what I did in the corner here was I brought these whalers right into the 45, and then I cut a 45 on them so that they're like holding the ends of these corners on both sides. And then I put like a strong back in the middle and some tap cons on the bottom. So normally you don't put in this many whalers. Normally you really only put like a double whaler on the top all the way around. But I want this to look pretty decent. And also the whalers I used over there were to support the 45. So inside of here, we had to stop at this existing wall. So we'd use a lot of foam and different techniques to brace things up. Like we went down to the footing there and tap conned it in, just so that that board doesn't push away under the pressure. Because concrete has a lot of pressure on it, especially on the bottom. So here's the other side of the plywood snap ties. And if you guys want, I'll do a little bit more in-depth detail about that kind of stuff, because I wish I had some videos to watch when I first started doing this. I couldn't find anything. I still can't find anything. So I'm not sure why there's not many videos about foundations, but everybody goes with ICFs. We have a single whaler here and a single whaler there. Like I said, normally we would only have a double whaler at the top, and that's usually only on one side of the foundation, just to keep it straight. But in this case, it doesn't hurt to use more. I have tons of whaler brackets. I have this whaler system bracket as well as a totally different one that uses a loop. And I have a ton of those. So So this is the next day. We got all the form stripped off. I started to put some foam on this side because these corners are going to be outside walls eventually. This inside wall doesn't really need anything, so it turned out pretty good. Can't really see it well, but in here it blended in pretty good with the existing stone wall. I'll try to cover some more of the details about these forms and the system that you use for it on the next video, because we're going to have 3 other walls to pour, and they're going to be out in the open so you can see them better. And I won't have to use any plywood at all, so it'll just be straightforward. So the next few things the next video I'm gonna do is gonna be the rest of this foundation and probably the slab that goes with it. And then we can start building from there. And I'll probably have another 3 or 4 videos on it.